Hello, everyone, and welcome to our seventh event in the Nightlight Poetry and Conversation series. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm delighted to be here with you tonight on this very, very early spring evening, hosting this marvelous group of readers. Before we dive in and hear from our five featured readers tonight, a quick word just about the series in case this is your first time listening in. Nightlight is a reading series featuring poets and writers, new and established, in a monthly reading hosted virtually, usually on the third Thursday of the month or so at 9 p.m. Eastern. At each of our events, we feature a group of invited readers to share a selection of their work with us. And having slots every month always means that we're looking for new folks to join us to read. We have a lineup for April's reading all set, but May has slots, June has slots, and beyond. So if you are yourself, or if you know somebody who's a poet or writer and you want to hear their work live, please let them get in touch with us. We would love to hear from them. You can contact us through the Nightlight accounts, which are at Nightlight Poems on Twitter, all one word, or at night_light_poems_ on Instagram. Or you could just get in touch with me directly if that's preferable. I'm at Tom Snarsky on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. You can email me, tomsnarsky@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. It's always those beautiful random connections that get us new readers and, help us make new friends on Poetry Internet, which is like my favorite place on earth, despite how, it can be sometimes. So, without any further ado, I think that's plenty in terms of introductory remarks. I'm really excited to get started into our reading lineup this evening by introducing our very, very first reader tonight, who is Nat Raum. Nat Raum is a disabled artist, writer, and genderless disaster based on unceded Piscataway and Susquehannock land in Baltimore. They are the editor-in-chief of Fifth Wheel Press and the author of You Stupid Slut, The Abyss is Staring Back, Random Access Memory, and other titles. You can find them online at natraum.com, natraum.com, and you can hear them read their poems right now. Thank you so much for being with us, Nat. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. And thank you everybody who came out. It's been a minute since I've read virtually in front of this many people, so that's really cool. And everybody looks so nice. I'm literally wearing my pajamas right now because it's 9 p.m. here. Without further ado, I'm going to get started. I'm going to read a decent amount from my forthcoming MFA thesis chapbook. So I'm in a kind of unique program at the University of Baltimore where we basically are also doing publishing arts in addition to writing. So our MFA thesis output is a published book, which is really awesome. And so I'm gearing up to get that kind of going in the next couple of months. So I'm going to read a couple poems from that. This is After a Line by Ada Limon and was published in Welter's Fall 2023 online issue. And this is my secret work to be worthy. And these are the wires between my synapses that make me want. This is my secret heart made of sugar glass, even though I sheathe her in steel for show. This is my covert undercarriage of fine porcelain, polished daily. This is my wishing to be wanted. The next piece was just published like a couple of days ago in Ghost City Review's March 2024 issue, and it is called Absolutely Torqued, and that is actually referencing a t-shirt if you are not familiar with it. Really recommend the Google. The question is, what do you want to drink? And the answer is always yes. I am the inside of a fountain in that I suck scum into my crevices like a bottom feeder turned loose on a riverbed of carrion. I open my blinds and stare down at traffic, shutter release longer and longer the emptier the bottle gets. Taillights blur to flowing Cabernet and eastbound traffic shines like Sauvignon Blanc. My father was an oenophile, and my childhood fever dreams are tinted like the contents of crystal goblets. I always imagine someone is watching me wobble across the linoleum floor, triple sheeted and tossed to the wind. Imagine with delight that a stranger sees me stumbling, waves hello. I think of how much I care about how glamorous I must seem with a glass in my hand. In the mirror, I rake fingers through miles of hair, nearly manic. If my beauty is all for show, why is no one looking at me right now? This next piece actually has not been picked up. I haven't really sent it out because for a really long time I was like, there's no way this is a really good poem. So, and then my thesis mentor was like, this is amazing. So I'm reading it tonight. And this is Abecedarian for the Unseen Photograph. A lens is a vessel through which I bleed, same as an artery. The littlest cut to sallow skin spurts scarlet down chalk white torso. Even a prick of paper to fingertip finds me fighting urges to geyser. Here's the truth. I don't like to be touched. I am just as afraid of bloodletting as kissing, as touches to the collarbone languid as drops of honey. My salvation is what most name the mortifying ordeal of being known, a well-composed photograph of a body disquieted. The truth will reveal itself years later, set in silver by then. Touch will wither, and so will the photograph, unbound and thumbtacked in vibrant afternoon sun. I wish it could waft through dusty air, scan my body like a Xerox. I can always stand to remember yearning for something. I feel zero shame. This next one I really love because it has like a kind of rough backstory and it's just like my beautiful little child anyway. Um, so this piece I wrote after a really frustrating experience that I had, and it's a gender poem. And that's all I will say about it. Holistic Guide to Being Agender in Public. Find yourself at an intersection of two things you can't quite name, but trust me, neither can anyone else. No one can seem to fathom this thing, and yet it will never be a source of wonder, only something else to forget about. We're talking about your transness, or maybe the way you are still wrapped with that word, unsure it really should apply to you, that you are really afforded this divine sort of laurels. But don't sit in the splendor for too long. You are likely the only person on this street corner who can see it. And honestly, fuck them. If they want to look at the kind of sunset you get to witness maybe 10 times a year and only see the body of a woman, they don't deserve you. Ooh. I always love reading that piece. It's so much fun. Um, so this piece has kind of a backstory and is also like kind of it's not like a total left turn, but it's like it's a slight right. This piece is from a collection I have forthcoming with Dog Leech Books, this coming late autumn, like November, December-ish. And it is written after a poem that was written after one of my Instagram posts. And it is forthcoming in Poets Rose third issue. Maybe this time I'll be lucky. Maybe this time I'll be lucky. I'll be plucky. I'll be, God forbid, resilient. I'll be redheaded and radiant and relevant. Maybe this time I'll tumble into his heart safely rather than careening, rather than leaping before I could glance left or right for hazards. Maybe this time Squish Cat will squash the garbage, the episodes, with his squasher downer like I've learned to handle my feelings. Maybe this time I'll get it all right, or at least have the foresight to know I've got it all wrong. It's got to happen sometime. Maybe this time, fuck, maybe this time I'll win. Um, anyway, the backstory that I didn't share for that is that the Instagram post was when I was like incredibly depressed, and I posted a photo of Stevie from Schitt's Creek singing Maybe This Time. And it was like the very end where she's like very triumphant. That's a very pivotal scene for me. I cry nearly every time I watch it. I'm not ashamed to admit that. So the next piece is part of the same collection and explores kind of like a different side of that collection, and was recently published as part of a digital zine of my work by Blackstone Whitestone. And this is called What Consumes You. Does a rail margarita make you lose your mind, or do you just have borderline personality disorder? You know, the kind where a drink makes sitting at a bar more bearable. It's not the loneliness that consumes you, but the chatter of those with companions. It's not the loneliness, but it is. The way the brain feels a bottle's contents flow through amygdala like a tequila-tinged accelerant. The corners of liquor-slicked lips as they turn downward with each unanswered text message. The smell of rejection and cheap sour mix lurching out of open mouth once stomach screeches to a halt in a bathroom stall. It's not the loneliness, but the control, the feeling that you can't make him call back, but you can buy yourself another consolation prize in a thick-walled tulip glass. You can stew in a slurry of your own regrets as you suck the last drops of store-brand orange juice out of melting ice. You can still look yourself in the mirror and insist it's not the drinking that consumes you. Okay, so the next piece is from the same collection. It is called Bluette, and it is forthcoming in Quarentia Press's Not Ghosts But Spirits anthology. My sense of she is somewhere else when I am alone and sink into they, into cornflower blue and baby pink bliss for my baby queer self. I forget this body is not boyish when I am its sole beholder. It is simply skin belonging to me, sculpted to ideal self in the haze of a cannabis vapor. And when I wake, for I will, riotously, I will start my day with reflections of my own trans glory. I will savor the sliver of blue in the morning sky. I'm going to end on a gender poem also because I love a gender poem. So, this last piece is part of something I've been working on for a very long time that is kind of inspired by my childhood in Baltimore and specifically like kind of the way that I grew up very like addled by video games, and they kind of thread their way through this collection in a way that is very like kind of weird, but also kind of fun. I do a lot of like after video game poems, and it's been a blast writing them. I just hope someone else likes this book as much as I do because I have it out on sub right now. Right. This is Gender Euphoria as a Toadstool. It is after Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, and it was published in the Anomaly It's a Good Day to Be Trans folio that S.G. Huerta edited. Is there a clear, obsessively played as an anthropomorphic mushroom person to extremely gay pipeline? I'm asking for a friend who once loved Toadette deeply, but changed their main to her boyish adventure buddy around the same time they dropped 2 syllables of their birth name. Is it evidence enough that we know toads have no gender either? And isn't that way of phrasing it the very thing I'm searching for here? The knowing why woman was a disguise and why man never fit either. All of this is to declare my infatuation with this particular style of void, this particular glowing toadstool of future euphoria. Thanks so much for having me here, y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Nat. What a use of the lead off slot, and the chat is very excited about your reading. That was Nat Rom, who you can find on the socials at Great Earl of Hell, GR number 8, EARLOFHELL. And please keep an eye out for both Nat's published work already and also their work at Fifth Wheel Press, at which they are the editor-in-chief. Fifth Wheel Press is doing very, very exciting stuff. Keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for Nat as well. Beautiful. I'm so glad that we are off to the races with such a gorgeous set of poems. And I also forgot to mention Basil's here. He's going to start yelling in a moment. That if you have some new poems that you are willing to share, one thing I forgot to mention at Nightlight is that we love to celebrate and shout out new shit. So if there is new shit being read or is new shit being read further on down the line, I'll be sure to hype it in the chat because we love hearing new stuff out on sub. It's like one of the great joys of this series. Right, Basil? Right. Okay. All right. Fabulous. And so our very next reader is a Nightlight returning reader. So we're very, very excited to have her back. And that is Lin Elizabeth. Lin Elizabeth is a poet living in the depths of the Arkansas Tree River Valley. She has been featured in places like Bruiser Mag, Tilted House Magazine, and Basset Hound Press. She has a forthcoming chapbook entitled Year of the Rabbit to come out April of next year, and a reintroduction to an old chapbook that's being published by Bullshit Lit in 2025 entitled Cherry Spitter, which is one of my favorites. Thank you, Lynn, for being back with us tonight. Take it away.
Thank you, Tom, for having me. I'm so excited. Yeah, so there's a typo. So the Year of the Rabbit's coming out in April of this year, hopefully around. I'm still trying to get that figured out. But yeah, but without further ado, I'm going to read a little bit from that. Yeah, I won't speak too much on it because it's kind of like a vague. I thought like The Vixen by M.S. Merwin, but like make it about grief and like observing grief and the patterns. I don't know. I thought it was cool, so I'm just running with it. So the first one is called Watering Holes. Tell me again how my body is a machine, how it's a clock, a working, living, hovering, suffering. Tell me again how it's intrinsic, the desire and the suffering of desire. Tell me how it won't stop beautifully. This life, this body, the way time moves, unless I will it to. Remind me again how it's natural to trace it into the back of my corneas. Salmon from the West Coast taste fresher. I wonder if they can feel the water, the danger in the water like I can always have, ears perked at the slightest of movements. And then I'm going to read another one. Give me a moment. I have to find it. I've been doing current edits, like running edits of it. I'm going to read one of my favorites. It was published in Bruiser, and it's entitled Targeted Ads. And I kind of want to change the title, but I don't know what I want to change it to. But I haunt my body. No give, always want. Saying yes opens the floodgates. I plead. I would like to look like my second grade picture again, please. Familiar with breaking dishes, pleated hair. Saying no is congruent with saying yes, poet. Clenched release, guided meditation. Savior, take my hand, make it clean without asking about harm done. Can I insist that you are here with me safely? Am I allowed to say her name and swallow it? And then I'm going to read one that is not like anywhere. It's just kind of there. It's just something I've written, and it's not really, I don't want it to have a home. It's just there. It's a me poem. It's called Distance Runner. Have you seen when the sky says, I am alive, with its glorious peacock striation, the pink, the horizon's ruddy cheeks for warmth, glowing down on a face the warm you inhale reminds you of lovers disappearing to fetch tea from the store, reminding you of the brevity in the moments you spent being together and alone. When the sky says it's alive, where you dim the sun down, shades pulled back, violins playing out the window, practitioners of honing vibrations, the ability to look at something every day, miles away differently, all the same tune, running commentary is remarkable as Mother Earth's incessant need to be noticed when she goes into her slumber. The man in the moon is claimed to have played music. There is a reason for all of this. And I'll end on one that is my new favorite and seems to be a good, like everyone that I've read it for so far seems to like it. It's entitled Neighbor. Neighbor, your outdoor garden is March and April and May in the middle of February. Neighbor, I've seen the new car in the driveway. Neighbor, I hope they lace up your little girl shoes. Neighbor, I've learned from you. Neighbor, I've had panic attacks in your present. Neighbor, on the inhale, you remind me to say my name. Neighbor, it was too long ago to remember why. Neighbor, I've noticed you've been eating again. Neighbor, it's an act of God, a God kinder than you and I know. Neighbor, do you hear the bells? Neighbor, do you know what it means? Neighbor, the light won't go out. Neighbor, I'll share this space with you. Neighbor, I understand why you have dogs, the protection they keep. Neighbor, don't tell me there's not a deeper meaning. Neighbor, I prayed this for you. Neighbor, I only wish for oil lamp talks. Neighbor, I don't think I'm doubting my reason to be here anymore. Neighbor, it seems neither are you. And thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Lynn, for those poems and for the absolute anaphora of neighbor. I was like, one of my favorite poems is Noel Cocotte's poem for the end of time, which has this refrain of like, my neighborhood, my neighborhood, my neighborhood, up in flames, my neighborhood. And I was right back there to like hearing that poem for the first time. That was so beautiful. And that was Lin Elizabeth, who you can find on Instagram at Borrowed Potpourri, Borrowed Potpourri. And keep an eye out for Lynn's amazing chapbook coming out called Year of the Rabbit soon, due out in April, I believe. And then also Cherry Spitter will be coming back care of Bullshit Lit. Beautiful time to be hearing poems. I hear, yeah, there's so much stuff happening in the chat that is as excited as I am, and that's always one of my favorite joys of these evenings. We have our Keystone reader next, right in the middle of the reading order, and I'm so excited to hear them read. That is Leticia Priebe Rocha. Leticia Priebe Rocha is a poet, visual artist, and editor. Her debut chapbook, In Lieu of Heartbreak, This Is Like, is out now with Bottle Cap Press. Born in Sao Paulo, Brazil, she grew up in Miami, Florida, and resides in the greater Boston area, where I grew up as well. So very excited to see some Boston rep. Her work has been published in Salamander, Rattle, and elsewhere. Thank you, Leticia, for being here with us. I'm so excited to hear what you're going to read. Floor is all yours.
Thank you, Tom, for that lovely introduction. I'm very happy to be here. So tonight, all but one of the poems that I'm going to read are from my chapbook, In Lieu of Heartbreak, This Is Like, out now with Bottle Cap Press. It's a lot of love poems, heartbreak poems, and if any of the words that I say tonight resonate with you, buy my book, maybe. I will jump right in. So this first poem borrows its first line from Mary Oliver, and I will go for it. Waiting. My one wild and precious life I lived in arrogance, thinking myself immune to the universal. Now, on this birdless winter morning, a squirrel grappling against the roof of a house echoes across the street until it leaps, flailing in the air for mere seconds, sticks the landing onto the thin and knobby branches of an unfledged tree, barren in the season. It scampers off with such triumph, a giddiness so absolute, I swear I hear it giggle, while I, suspended mid-air, beseech each and every force in the universe that we land our way to laughter. All right, this next one starts in a church. It ends not in a church. It's called Higher Power. Higher Power. Dying sunlight crawled through the window of the chapel at just the right angle to flood my body with brilliance. In this monument to human desire, I understood religion for the first time, the need to devour a book promising every answer. How desperately our species has begged to be told how to live. My mother rebuked the Bible my entire life, her form of resistance to an abusive Catholic upbringing. Among her many fears of what I would internalize from organized religion was that Eve was designed to spare Adam from walking this world alone. It was a valiant effort, crushed by the dominant societal messaging that a human being's worst possible ending is to die alone, that we are all halves searching for another to be whole. I fantasized, albeit briefly, about the relief that must come with becoming a nun, fully relinquishing the search out of absolute devotion to a being greater than yourself. Though the prospect of that relief approaches the divine, I must admit I would not make a very good nun. I don't fear hell, and the whole concept of eternal damnation is pretty damn lacking in imagination. I don't have better answers for what happens after we die, though. The closest I ever came to an answer was in your embrace, two beings blossoming in a tenderness both singular and universal. I knew then what it is to be held by a force greater than myself, that through all of the turns of this universe, we somehow managed to take all necessary twists to find each other in this life, though I am convinced it is not the first. That we will certainly meet again, though I am afraid in the next life, we will inevitably be praying mantises, and I will chomp off your head. Most of all, I knew that I couldn't possibly know any of it, that time would not stop churning relentlessly above our heads. I once received a recall notice for my car's windshield, a warning that it may not have been properly bonded to the vehicle, allowing it to detach in a crash. When I finally got an appointment to replace it, they said it could take up to 5 days if the windshield shattered upon removal. In the days I spent waiting, I couldn't stop imagining the shattering, glass flying all over the interior. I couldn't stop hoping at least a shard would be left behind. I still can't accept the difference between windshields being completely imperceptible, that every day I sit in a vessel irreversibly altered with no witnesses. Okay, this next poem is the titular poem of my chapbook. In lieu of heartbreak, this is like. When my wisdom teeth erupted and it was past time to relieve my mouth of their excess, I was thrilled to get high on nitrous oxide, but they needed to drill into the bone, so no giggle gas for me. Count backwards. 10, 9, 8, 7. Awake and fear-filled, with tears for hours in the arms of my mother, inconsolable loss of teeth, of blood, of tears, of memory, of pieces of me. Okay, this next one, Mitski fans, you will like the title. Very much influenced by her always. Wild women don't get the blues. I can't believe a man dependent on a watermelon flavor vape broke my heart. I can't stop listening to the score of a movie about lovers who missed each other in this life. I am a hoarder of yearning, a collector of magnets from my every destination. My most recent edition I required in Kentucky, which declares, since 1792, home of fast women, beautiful horses, and good bourbon. It was so green there, lush bluegrass adorning the earth as far as the horizon to meet the sun. A downpour met me one evening, the sky bursting open for a few minutes, so I didn't. For a dozen years, Matisse was said to retreat from the natural world to paint interiors. An accumulator of beauty, he imbued still lifes with a tender admiration for the objects he gingerly manipulated. I have taken new lovers who kiss me like they want to be remembered. I never liked watermelon. I want to be brave. All right, I have 2 more for you. This next one was written in a time I was listening to a lot of Carly Rae Jepsen. I mean, I still do that, but you might hear her in it. How to be lonely. No, I don't fetishize my own sadness. Seriously, I don't. But maybe I do fetishize my loneliness. I've been known to dress it up in a skimpy, lacy red thing made to be ripped off. I caress it slowly until it feels real. Take it out dancing, drink it up silly, rush into the night and feel it pulsing alongside me. We hold hands. I give it a forehead kiss. I even write love letters to my loneliness. And guess what? You can too. Start writing love letters to your loneliness. Don't stop. Write more love letters. When you reach the point where the only entities in this entire universe that could possibly understand you are the moon and your loneliness, keep going. You're almost there. Kiss it and laugh with it until you gasp for breath, and hug it tight like it is your one and only anchor to this earth, and show it all the songs that made you feel alive at 16, and sob with it about the first time your parents broke your heart, and know it and be known by it, and love it still, and love it and love it and love it, and love, love, love the most gorgeously, longingly, vulnerably, sillily human thing you can be. All right, I've got one more for you, and this one is 3 sonnets that I decided come together into one poem. Alignment. 1. I was 5 or 6, one of those tender ages where absolutely nothing made sense and I was okay with it. A girl in my class made spitting remarks and I spit back. The teacher told us to be good, make nice, apologize. Grown-ups were always right, so I said my sorries. Something about it hurt, like a piece of rice stuck in my throat. Once home, I burrowed in my mother's lap, her smoldering voice surrounding me. Never apologize when you have done nothing wrong. God himself can come down to earth demanding an apology, and you must look him in the eyes and say no. I return to that moment every time I pass an animal that has been permanently stilled by a vehicle, like the used-to-be squirrel I swerved from ages ago and still think about. I am incompatible with this world in which one can rob another of motion. I drove by for days, watching as the squirrel became less and less and more remains until it vanished one day without a trace. I kept driving. Days after the first time I apologized without fault, I brought home an injured bird, tearfully watched it fly away when healed. I want so desperately to be good. 2. Though I am unfazed by the sight of blood and have no problem staring down the barrel of a needle, I hate getting blood drawn. My veins are what nurses call a difficult stick, so I am invariably pricked at least twice before the blood starts flowing out of me. I enjoy that part, watching the redness leave my body. This I am almost ashamed of, what it takes to see that I am alive. I often bruise afterwards, but I don't mind those much, sickly purple reminders that I am perishable. What I can't stand are the apologies, palpable concern that I will pass out from their search for the vein that yields a proper rush. I can't fault the nurses. How could they gauge that I am ill-equipped for those who tiptoe around their taking? I have only known the relentless beating of ocean waves against rock. It's my birthright. Once, my mother and I stood blanketed by the silence of constellations, punctured constantly by crashing waves, the water a gaping mouth before us. She said breezily, "It's a wonder, isn't it, that we all don't just walk right in, get swallowed up." 3. I didn't travel much growing up, couldn't afford it or the demands of state lines and TSA. On my first flight disentangled from Spirit Airlines, I hated the first-class passengers and their absolute audacity to dress like shit. My mother taught me that my body was all I had, so I'd better honor it with adornment. Without a doubt, my favorite smell in the entire world is that of my own perfume. So what? That's what happens when a child learns that many lives must eventually fit in the void of a suitcase. This poem wasn't about you, and now it is. When we finally meet again in the sleet, I'll ask, how did you get here? You'll laugh like always. I walked. It was so stupid. It doesn't matter how long we take. For half of my life, I wanted to die. That's easy to say now. Tonight, a perfect stranger gifted me, tears welling up in her eyes, hand on my shoulder, the exact words I needed to hear 10 years ago. I know to listen. Be very good to yourself. Be very good to yourself. That's all I've got. Thank you so much.
What a beautiful note to close that set on. That was Leticia Priebe Rocha, who you can find on the social medias on Twitter at Leti Priebe Rocha, so LettyPriebeRocha, and on Instagram at Leti Priebe Rocha Poems, LettyPriebeRochaPoems. And you can also check out Leticia's work at leticiaprieberocha.com. And that you just heard a bunch of poems from Leticia's amazing chapbook, In Lieu of Heartbreak, This Is Like, which you can find at bottlecap.press. Check it out, and you can hear these same beautiful incantations as many times as you like. And that was just an absolutely beautiful way to mark the crescendo, the middle of our set this evening. Thank you, Leticia, for being with us. And it's always a little bit bittersweet to get into the back half of the order, but at the same time, I am so delighted to introduce another returner to our series, who I believe maybe last read. I don't know, Jill can correct me if you read last when we were still performance anxiety or when we were nightlight, but Jill Bergantz is here. And Jill Bergantz is a queer poet and journalist who writes about the loss of autonomy at large and small scale, its attendant ramifications, geology, and sometimes about sex from her home on unceded Nuuk land in the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. Her pushcart-nominated work has appeared in Barrow Street, Opossum Magazine, Back Patio Press, Tupelo Press, and in newsprint. She's good trouble, and we're very glad to have her back at Nightlight. Thanks, Jill, for being here. Let's check your audio. Does it work okay?
I think, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hooray.
Beautiful.
Oh, y'all have been incredible. And yeah, you're right, Tom. The last time I read was when the series was called Performance Anxiety, which I have always. I brought a few poems. The ones on the back end of the reading do require a content warning, which I will give you because consent is the most important thing. But let's start off with a few recipes, because who does not love a good recipe? The first one is a recipe for anhydritic agate. And this was first published in 404 Inc., which is a great publication out of the UK. Pour a season's worth of water through an ash sieve the color of skim milk being poured. Stream nearly translucent, tinged with blue. Cover, and let it come to rest on a bed of chalcedony, a rock like quartz and also like opal, but neither transparent nor translucent. Wait until the boil dies down, and it will crystallize. A bite through warm tortellini, salt and savor, fine grain, al dente till it cools. Listen, it sounds lovely, but this next part can be deadly. Add rhyolite. Smooth, dry, and thirsty for moisture, it's Pompeii without a city, it's Vesuvius south of the equator. Add rhyolite, a fine silt. What erupts from a volcano when a volcano does not belch forward the fire we expect. It's like saffron. A little goes a long way, but if you can afford it, you might as well go all in. Wait a few million years until you can hold a palm to it without being singed. Then carve it slowly, snow globe of a disaster, quiet even through its own birth. Cleave to it, weight in your hand, beauty and bubbling. It's a miracle we waited for long enough. Serve carefully this yield of stone. And another recipe for another thing you can't eat. Although I have those, but I'm not feeding anybody tonight. July of the pandemic year, when we all thought there would only be one, right? Wash your face. Wash your hands. Ask a man you've only met since the world began to end in earnest to call you on the phone. Feed the dog her dinner. In an hour, he will call you back. Describe how you came to have the onions. Whip the story into stiff peaks. Talk about them toppling off the truck. Tell him how fast you flipped a bitch in your little red car, but say it better than that, even though that's exactly what you did. With urgency, with hunger, with angry need. He's not like Elle. He doesn't want to hear you say it, but this is why cookbooks say soft peaks, when they really mean beat the fucking hell out of it. Add the supporting characters. They're people like you. You're learning, you're people like them in that pinprick moment when at first you see a tragedy and there's no such thing as tragedy now, have another helping, and genuflect. Cars flying by the still life at 70 miles per hour. Add dirt and heat and looking into one another's eyes, low and plain. Add the woman nodding her sweatshirt. Add the man with his cooler. Add the thing you learned in textile theory when you were 19, making a poultice out of papery yellow onion skins, boiling them down in a dye lab in San Francisco. Fold in the way the fabric looked after, hung to dry, trapped sunlight. Okay. Thank you all for listening. Let's move on to some things about the loss of autonomy. Medical things. That last poem was published in a fantastic anthology called Magpies. This is from Silver Needle Press, and it's called Of Exclusion. 1. Here is what it is not. Lupus, an infection, a cancer of the salivary glands, a tumor in the brain, a blood vessel routed poorly. Elliot's patient etherized upon a table. I waited in a paper gown. A technician entered, holding a wet sponge to place on the nape of my neck, to ground me. As their currents went through my body, a metal taste in my mouth, myself, a heaving, desperate grimace. I once believed that I could tame it through knowledge, through diagnosis, through meditation, through medication, but still, I am awakened in shrill pain, my jarring jaw locked again. Atypical, bilateral, trigeminal neuralgia. The following activities should be avoided to minimize discomfort. Eating, drinking, talking, smiling, encountering a slight breeze, a kiss, the opening of a mouth, the touch of a lover. 2. Once we caught a tarantula hawk under a plastic cup. The rust orange wings settled quickly as it waited for its particular aposematism to work. This animal, not quick to anger, we released it from that small prison, and it walked away. That day, that late summer day, we were luckier than we could know. A tarantula hawk, it does this. Wrestles a spider to the ground and administers 2 treatments. A sting that lasts many months, and an egg. A half year elapses, the larva grows and eats all but the vital organs, keeping the meat alive. Such awful. It's been written, the sting is so painful, It makes it impossible to do anything but scream. So blindingly fierce it is, so shockingly electric it is. And the months spent underground, raising a young not your own, giving over your body to this natural progression. But oh, to be the prey. Okay. Thank y'all for listening. These next two poems, the second more than the first, do require a bit of a, well, I need to let you know that they speak to and about sexual assault. So no one needs to listen if that's something they don't want to listen to. It's something I'm writing about because in my county, they haven't had a trial for that in about 30 years, and I am forcing them to do that. No one should ever go through that. You're quite an idiot if you do that to anyone, if you don't understand consent, and you're really quite an idiot if you do that to someone who also works as a journalist. So there is no judgment if you drop out at this point, and I'm sure Tom will help. I don't know, how will you help anyone know when this is over? But onward. And as I've said that, the poem I had pulled up, which is called The Lost, has moved from where I put it. And I do apologize for that. These things happen, right? We can switch gears. It's not like that's the only poem I've written on this. We'll go with one called Damn Spot instead, because it's right here. 1. Say in hiking and watering the Astilbe, in swimming laps in shaded, sweet, cold pools, you are surprised by a rattlesnake. Once you've severed head from body, the dull strike of spade to hard play of summer soil, the grave you dig for the snake you've killed, it has to be deep enough for the body's lunging muscle memory to stay buried, writhing in the earth, even after several days have passed, to put that fanged head you trepanned so deep down. 2. A few days before Christmas, Dot's husband called the sheriff, told him, "I've shot my wife." And he had. She was sick. That doesn't matter. He killed himself too. The police, they didn't know that. They called for his surrender for hours that night. And us, in fear on that mountain, didn't know the tense of their cries. 3. Once, a rattlesnake laid across our doorway, trapping some in, trapping some out. One of us called for Dot, and down the road she came, Minnie, the big black dog, riding beside her, a loaded shotgun in her lap. She stood and took aim, and afterward, none of us could find the snake. It was not in our doorway anymore, anyway. Later, that fall, as the valley oaks defoliated, high up, we saw it, strung between the branches, a sublime western garland. And Tom, here is your new shit. Praying after Kesha. I met the man in the backyard of the childhood home of the physicist who first measured the diameter of a star, Betelgeuse, and the fall He did the thing he did. Astronomers announced the star was dying imminently. When you are victim, witness, crime scene, you don't know what you don't know. You do know what you do know, by which I mean, you don't have the evidence file, by which I mean, the evidence file is constructed by which you've handed over, by which I mean, if you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you if and only if you are the defendant, which you are not. In the United States of America, if a woman shows up bleeding with a text message that says, "You said no, I didn't listen, I'm so sorry, Jill," a train will leave the station traveling at terminal velocity, and court is a box that Schrodinger built. Everything can happen. Plait your hair so the snakes don't show. Wipe the pomegranate juice from your lips. Cassandra becomes you. They will ask you at the entrance to empty your pockets for an officer. They will pat you down. You have been subpoenaed 5 times already. You are going in. 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 This star was dying imminently, astronomers declared. Imminently. Quick. Define it for the court of law. Now, do dying. Thank you.
Wow, Jill, that was absolutely phenomenal. Now do dying. The chat was exploding in excitement at new shit, and we were not disappointed. That was phenomenal. And that was Jill Bergantz, who you can find in a bunch of places on Twitter, on Instagram, on Blue Sky at JILLBERGANTZ. Also, Jill used some beautiful space in the little Google form that I sent to all the readers to give some shout outs to some really cool places. Jill wanted to shout out Tramp Set Magazine, founded by writer-journalist Scott Neufer. It's a publishing wonderful, sustaining work. I wanted to give them a shout. Tramp Set is a great place to consider sending your work. They're open, paying, affirming, and back their writers with real heart. And Jill urges us to buy Joshua Davis's recently reissued chap, Reversal Spells in Blue and Black, out now from Seven Kitchens Press. It's hand-bound. It has a beautiful cover. It's by Joshua Davis, and it's called Reversal Spells in Blue and Black. And keep in touch with Jill through those socials and keep up with the beautiful work that she is publishing, because if you heard that and you want to hear more, you're not alone. So find Jill and pay attention to the beautiful things that she's doing. Ah, cool. We've been up, we've been down. We've had a lot of new shit that has happened, which is amazing. It is always even more bittersweet to get into the last reader of the evening than to get to the back half in general. But we're going to finish strong, and we are going to finish in particular strong with Elisheva Fox, who is a poet with roots firmly planted in Texan soil. A finalist for the Gwendolyn Brooks Poetry Prize, she has also been nominated for Best of the Net. Her work has appeared in Rust and Moth, Paper Brigade, Strange Horizons, and Sandhills Literary Magazine, among others. I think maybe also in Atmospheric, which just had a fun little launch the other day. Elisheva, thank you so much for being here with us and for closing us out. All you. Let's see.
I did it.
Let me ask you to unmute. Oh, there you go.
Okay. No, I was saying that the line "plait your hair so the snakes don't show" is just rollicking around in my brain. So it's taken me a moment to kind of settle in. Everything I'm reading is new shit, so we will go with it, see what happens. Lately I've been working on a series of psalms and blessings that start kind of with the idea of probably David's original intentions and then make a hard right. So we'll see where we go. This is Psalm for Unnodding. We watched the men in black and white swarm the gray bricked building. I tell you, it's called a kollel, a place where they study Talmud and Torah, but we can't join them. Not because I am a woman, not because you aren't, but because we are not men. You read my face like scripture. You laugh and remind me that I taught you Aleph Bet, and the first letter is silent.
And in silence, every possible sound sings, nothing is precluded. And isn't that how we want to live our lives anyway? Then we've got, this is the Psalm for Freedom. Turkey necks, smoked, make a pretty decent replacement for ham hocks. This is how I make my collards Jewish, with the discard. And I have to say, y'all are missing out. Like every man I've ever known, you're too focused on the breasts and the thighs. I mean, you laugh. And listen, I'll admit it is a little funny. Since I left my husband, I too have discovered that the breasts and thighs of women are delicious. Truth is, turkey necks are cheap. And after the divorce, I'm trying to save money where I can. He never hurt me with his meaty fists, but he does like to watch me suffer. He always did. He was just quiet about it, and people only notice violence when it's loud, unavoidable, and delicious. So now I eat a lot of beans and hot water cornbread and Jewish collards, and I sing my songs over the bones that I want. This piece is a blessing. So I am kind of working through what we would call like a prayer book. So we're doing Psalms and we're doing blessings. And this one is what happens when you are a late blooming elder millennial queer and you come out to your Texan family. Blessing for a celebration. Responses from my mother and sister when I finally came out of the closet. You text me and just expect love and support? Do you expect us to throw you a party? You know what, honestly, I think that's a pretty fabulous idea. I do want a party. Something tasteful, held at dusk, with lavender and violet bouquets because our history is important. Fat, glossy candles, but not too many. I'm not maudlin. But this moment does feel a little like Hanukkah, like twinkling against the dark, like Judith cutting through a stubborn neck. And speaking of slices, at the end of it all, there absolutely should be a cake, 8-layered, strawberry or cinnamon, or whatever flavor says, we are so glad you did not die, and now you are alive. And then I think I have one more. This one is coming out in Lavender Review. And this is called the Psalm for Feinberg. If the world needs to be repaired, like the rabbi said, and I think we can all agree that, yes, the world is fucking broken. And yes, someone should fix it. Then my question is, why does everyone hate us? And by us, I mean us, you and me, psalmists screaming at heaven. But I also mean us, the queers and the dykes, the butches and the trans folks. Don't they know how good we are with our hands? With toys as tools? With taking shards shattered and making them glitter again? Thank y'all so much for coming, for listening. This has been a dream. I love this. Yeah, everyone was amazing.
Everyone, including you, thank you so much, Elisheva, for being here and for reading those beautiful bits of new shit and from this beautiful prayer book that you are putting together. I'm so excited to read it. And that again was Elisheva Fox, who you can find at thefoxmother.bsky.social, TheFoxmother. on Blue Sky, and just, yeah, keep an ear to the ground for the amazing stuff that Elisheva is doing and all of our brilliant readers tonight. We've heard so much amazing poetry in the last hour and change, and it's just always a privilege. And I'm just so glad. Yeah, I agree with Willow, who's in the chat saying, flipping my desk over at these poems, because yeah, that's how it feels. Like this desk is too heavy, but if I could, I would. Um, wow. Yeah, just a beautiful way to end. I just want to say a few things now that we have reached the, you know, end of our order, but not of our series. Thank you so much to all of our readers for sharing their beautiful work with us this evening. Thank you to our listeners, some of whom are here in the Zoom call with us, or if you're listening on YouTube, thank you for giving this hour and change of your life over to poetry. I hope that if you are listening and you have some new shit, like new poems that you've written, or if you know somebody who you think should really read out loud, please get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you at Nightlight Poems on Twitter, bunch more underscores at Nightlight Poems on Instagram, or get in touch with me, Tom Snarsky, on any of the things. We do have some readers slated for our next reading on third Thursday of April, April 18th, but we do also have plenty of spots in May and beyond. We would love to hear from you, hear you read, talk with you. You can join the chorus that includes Basil, who's down here. And while Basil yells in the background, we're going to end the way we always do with a poem. This is a poem from one of my favorite books ever. It's William Bronk's book, Life Supports, his new and selected poems. This poem is called The Body of This Life. So thank you for being here. The recording will stop after you hear this thing. The body of this life. I lie along the body of this life, all night stilling my breath to listen to breath, feeling its weight heavy against my weight. Awake in early light, I look at it and set my eyes to search its hollows out, its curves and surfaces, sojourning there as walkers quarter, whose aimless walks are a kind of office in which they read the proper of the day, slowing at pools of light under the trees, impelled to certain roads, bemused at flowers, as little knowing what a place should mean or what they meant to find as I with you, still sleeping, mute to me, or waking now, awake to some desire, not my desire, and helpless to answer mine, which puzzles itself, pondering what day that it were proper to were here, that it should see in sets of bone, in skin, in streaks of hair, some different sight, as if it were there and it not there, nor know at all what sight it is it sees.